Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Bring Back the Love Conversations, a series about love, romance, and R&B. I am your host, AJ Throwback, and I am excited for, for this particular episode because me and this brother right here, man, we go way, way back. You know what I'm saying? Like we done had many and many conversations about pretty much all of the above, you know what I mean? Going back to our college days at Hobart and William Smith colleges, you know what I'm saying? Me and him, we was sophomore roommates and everything. So I'm glad to have my brother Keith Brandon on with me this evening. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to uh, do it again one more time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
many conversations.
Yeah, man. People don't even know like our conversations were epic when it came to R&B, man.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, you know what I'm saying? First and foremost, welcome to the platform. I appreciate you for coming on.
thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, just to give everybody a brief synopsis of what we're gonna be talking about this particular evening. Um, Basically new love, something new. And when you first meet somebody, it's a particular feeling, a particular vibe that you get, especially when it's somebody special. I mean, because you can meet people all the time, but when you meet somebody that just jumps off the page, it's a very, very specific feeling that you get. You know what I mean? So I am going to start this off by asking you to describe an experience of like meeting somebody for the first time and like you just had this undeniable feeling about them, barely knowing them from a can of paint, but just like something about them just really just stood out to you.
Uh, and I'm gonna go. You know me. I'm gonna go unusual way. Sometimes it could be they stood out to you because it wasn't that spark. It wasn't something romantic. It was something where maybe they weren't really paying that much attention to you, but they caught your attention. And sometimes them not paying attention to you or uh, them not even being attracted to you or even saying something to you catches your attention. So sometimes that could be an attractive thing because now you're interested in them and getting to introduce them and introduce yourself to them. So
Yeah, that I like that perspective. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's not always like you know a lot of times how music, movies, TV, like how they portray like those first moments. It's like the sparks and all of that stuff fly
yeah,
and
yeah,
sometimes it's not even that serious. It's just really
no,
as simple as you know how you described it, you know what I mean? And to me
yeah,
it's more authentic that way when it ends up happening because it's like you know that it's something real, it's something substantial, you know.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, man. So R&B, you know, like we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Now granted this particular series is kind of sort of sparked by a specific time period, but you know what I realize is that people kind of sort of fall in love with R&B at different points of their life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or like they really connect with it at different points of their life. For me, it was like late 80s, pretty much all the 90s. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like for you, like who are like a lot of the artists that really just kind of sort of like open the door for you to really be like just so enamored with R&B?
It's interesting you say it's so many, and I think like for example, I would say Babyface,
Mm,
being such a writer that he was, being so young, I didn't realize he was a part of the Commodores until later because of when I was introduced to R&B. So then when you start to
mhm.
go back and you're like, whoa, he was part of a group, right? And so
Yeah,
then you see this trend of all these great performers or writers who were part of a group that had to go solo. So if you speed up, you go to Bobby Brown. Eventually, he had to go solo, right? And you start to see
yeah,
how um, that transition happened. But for him to be a writer, for Babyface to be a writer, I mean, obviously your career continues on even when he stops singing new songs. other people were singing
Hmm.
his music. So I think I even pulled up his song recently because we were going to talk about it, the Day and Night song with the Commodores. So
Yeah.
um, I think that was he was big. My first official name is Barry, so Barry White, right? He was another writer
Yeah.
who wrote music, and kind of his earlier album, he dropped it because he wrote a song for a particular singer, and in him singing it to them so they can know how the harmony goes and how everything goes, the artist said, nah, you should be singing this song. Like this is your song. You should be singing it. And so that's how his album wind up coming out. And you can, through the 90s, you can name so many people. Maxwell, whose career started pretty similar, didn't want to be famous, was discovered. I can't. This is an artist I don't want nobody to forget about, and I thought about it. John
Yeah.
B.
Oh
John
yeah.
B.
Oh yeah.
He gets left out. Um, the There's so many artists in the 90s, but I think really 112 was a big influence, and Jodeci.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You named first and foremost, I mean, naming Babyface, like you automatically gonna get my attention because I mean, when I think about like the specific period when I really started falling in love with R&B, like I mean,
yeah,
Babyface was literally producing everything and everybody, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And before I even really started reading liner notes like that, like I knew his sound. Like I was like, okay, Babyface must have did that one.
He
You
must
know
have
what I'm
did
saying?
something. He did
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah,
even going back to the whole thing, like you were saying, when he was singing with the deal, and he did two occasions. Like I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
even like put two and two together when it came to that until like years later. But then I started studying his sound more. I was like, that makes perfect sense. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's definitely you saw the progression from his
yeah,
time with the deal, and then like
yeah,
finding out years later when he wrote the original slow jam for Midnight Star. I
yeah,
was like, even hearing the melody, hearing how it was sung and everything, I was like,
yeah,
that makes sense,
yeah,
But I
yeah,
was I was hoping at some point that you would mention John B, because like that specifically was one of the
yeah,
like the conversations that I remember us having in
yeah,
school was that Crew
yes,
Relax album. You know what
yes,
I'm
yes,
saying? Such
yes,
a great album right
yeah,
there. You know.
yes. And it's so funny because what is it, been 20 years since we probably had that conversation? I mean,
Yeah,
probably.
probably maybe about 25 at this point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember that we were both adamant about him getting left out.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, but it was just us, you and I talking like just like now.
Right, exactly,
You know,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and he really does get slept on in terms of like his impact, specifically with those first two albums, and even the third album that a lot of people don't talk about, the Pleasures You Like album. That was
yeah,
a good album too. I think because Cool Relax just like made was like his biggest album in terms of front
yes,
to back, the
yes.
songs that he had on it. I mean, you talking They Don't Know, you talking about the I Do
Yeah, they
song,
don't.
the joint
Yeah,
with Tupac. Like I
the
mean,
joint with
it's
the joint with Tupac was crazy because nobody expected that. I
right.
don't even. I don't feel like it was advertised. It just came out, and you're like, "What is that Tupac on there?"
Right, exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. But I
yeah,
mean, he had so many like dope songs on that album. I mean, but you just think about his pedigree as a singer, his pedigree as a songwriter, and you just
yeah,
think about those songs. They were very like honest songs, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And I think that's the thing, frankly, that particular era, whether you're talking like starting from Barry White, even all the way up to say like a John B. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, I mean, you talking about like a 25, 30-year stretch right there of music.
yeah.
And but there was still a certain sincerity that was there even by the time you got to somebody like John B, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. They weren't making up songs. They were writing real life situations in their own
Yeah.
creative way. And I think
Mm,
people, whether it's John B or any other artist, the hardest part for them, their competition wasn't other artists as you might, because there was a lot of artists coming out. So that was a competition. But a lot of times with a John B, or even if you look at 112, your album being so good from every song, because you remember, if you didn't have to skip, that was a quality album. Like that
Yes.
was a quality record if you didn't have to skip songs. Because we would talk about, oh, what's your favorite song? 5, 7, 8. Like you did number name,
Yeah.
name the numbers. So if you have an album that's really good like that, his competition was that album.
Hmm.
So
That's
so
right.
we lost artists in the second album or the third album. Now you're not listening to anymore because the first album I didn't have to skip.
Right. Right. Yeah. That, and what's funny about you mentioning that is that that immediately made me think of Carl Thomas's first album. Like
I
his
was going to
first,
go there.
yeah, like his first album was so good. It's such a classic that by the time you got to that second one, which was like I want to say like 4 years later, it's
Yeah,
like the expectations were so high
yeah,
that it was hard to almost beat those
yeah,
expectations. Like, yeah,
definitely.
like you said, he didn't have to necessarily worry about competing with, say, like the Dave Hollisters at the time,
No,
or whoever like the solo guy was at the
yeah,
time. He
yeah,
had to compete with his first body of work that was so good that
yeah,
it's like, how do you top that?
yeah.
You know?
And there's a whole group. It's a whole pack of those artists. So you can
Mhm.
go to you can go to Rome. What
Ooh,
was the
man.
what was the other guy's name? Donnell Jones.
Hmm.
Like there's a whole bunch of those artists where they came out so strong. You're like, man, how you gonna compete with that?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could even argue Tank if you wanted to,
Oh yeah. I was
because
just thinking Tank.
he should have been bigger than his sound and his voice. You know, it's crazy that you're not putting out great albums for a long period of time. You
Right.
know, like an
Yeah.
R. Kelly. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, man. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I mean, we talking about some. I A lot of them we think of them as heavy hitters because of what they did in terms of the work. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? They might not have necessarily had the same staying power, like you said, as an R. Kelly,
yeah,
or as a lot of the artists that we celebrate so much. But thinking about the work is it's very hard to put together one body of work. You
yes,
know what I'm saying? I think as an artist, like I can say that like there's a difficulty, and especially as a singer, you know what I'm saying? I can only imagine the pressure for a singer. You're already being scrutinized for your voice
yes,
more so than say a rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like rappers, I think they're more scrutinized for their delivery, their lyricism, their subject matter, those types of things. Whereas a singer is going to be criticized for those things, but not more than their actual voice and how they deliver it and how they make the the lyrics believable. Because
yeah,
you could sing the lyrics very well, but you have to actually sell people on a particular storyline when it comes to a song, especially if you don't write your own songs, which a lot of the
yeah,
great singers, unless you're talking, say, the Luther Vandrosses or the
yeah,
Marvin Gayes,
yeah,
like you're not typically writing your own songs.
yes,
Like the Teddy Pendergrasses back in the day, like he wasn't writing his own songs. Whitney Houston
no,
wasn't writing her own songs.
no,
I mean, say like a Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey wrote the majority of her own songs, but
yeah,
like not everybody was in that same vein, because a lot of times I think the slant, or not that slant, the knock on singer songwriters is that they're better songwriters than they are singers. But
yeah,
I think what it is a lot of times is that they focus more on making sure that whatever they're singing is actually believable. Like it's
yeah,
not just words on a page or just words that you hear. It's like it's gotta be, you have to believe that the emotion behind it is authentic and genuine.
yeah. I mean, most of them when a song was written for them, they had to be able to connect personally to it to want to sing it, right?
Hmm.
To want to record it. And when you mention artists that scrutinize for their singing, I mean, there's one person that comes to mind, and I'll have this argument with you, with anybody about
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige.
Hmm.
People talked about how she couldn't sing, and I'm telling you, I got probably all her cassette tapes. I was
Yeah.
trying to look for the box this morning, right?
Yeah.
The songs that she sang, and I think this is a different part of the love conversation. If you look back in R&B in the past, we had artists and writers who wrote songs to fit every situation you possibly could think of, right?
Hmm.
If it was trying to
Hmm.
get your lady back, Keith Sweat, right? And
Yep.
there was other artists who would do it. And then if you was just meeting her for the first time and you was scared, you didn't know what to say, we had an artist. So you get with her in the room and you play the song and you hope she listening to the lyrics because it's
Mm-hmm.
saying what you felt and where you were in your relationship with that person. So we had soundtracks that just played what we wanted to say or what we wanted to express. And it was no art, it was nowhere in R&B where you couldn't find a song for a situation.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. What's funny about you saying that is that makes me think about our friend in common country. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like when we had the radio show and everything, like one of the things, and we literally had this conversation maybe like a week or two ago
yeah,
about being able to assemble playlists based on particular stories being told. Like you tell a story of somebody meeting each other, then heartbreak, then what I'm saying, like all of these different layers when
yeah,
it came to a relationship, getting that person back. And the
yeah.
fact is, the reason why it was so easy to assemble those playlists is because, like you said, there was a song for pretty much every situation that you could
Every
think of.
every
You know?
situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with my wife. I think we were in a grocery store, and the music comes on. Any store we go in, she's like, "You know that song?" Because I know classic rock, right?
Yeah.
Because I grew up as a kid in front of the radio, and I would just skip stations. Like
Mm.
if the DJ was talking, I would skip stations. So I listened to a lot of different stations, and classic rock was one, and so I didn't know what artists looked like. I didn't know Tina Marie was white,
Right.
right? I didn't know that, right?
Yeah.
Until we were like maybe teenagers or in college, right?
Yeah.
And then you're sitting there like, what? So
Yeah.
Joe Cocker didn't know
Yep.
that, right?
Yep.
And then it was the flip. There was some people who I thought were black artists that weren't.
Mm.
And so it I heard so many different love songs, but the lyrics were phenomenal. They were
Hmm.
phenomenal what they were saying, right?
Yeah.
And being 20 years later, you kind of like you listen to them now, you're like, oh, I understand that now.
Hmm.
I didn't understand some of that stuff went right over my head, you
Right.
know, but it was still beautiful music, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't
yeah.
agree more.
And there's one song I wanted to share with you that always that I think is underrated. Well, it's not talked about, but there's nothing better than love by Luther Vandross and
Woo.
Gregory Hines. Gregory
Yes,
Hines gets left out of a lot too.
he does.
You know,
Yeah, yeah. That's a great one right there. Like I would say probably 1994, and this is like maybe 7, 8 years after it was a single. When I say I was obsessed with that song, like I would literally wake up every day and play that song.
yeah,
Like that's how much I love that song. And I still feel that way about it. Like it's one of those. I mean, it was a big hit for Luther. That's
yeah,
that's just it. Like it was a big hit for him, but it's not the one when people talk about his greatest, some of his greatest songs. That's
yeah,
not the first one that comes to mind. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
People always, they'll mention the typical ones. You know what I mean? Like So Amazing, or Here and Now, or Superstar, or Never Too Much. Like it's
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
always the same ones, but
yeah,
I rarely hear people talk about songs like There's Nothing Better Than Love. And
yeah.
and like you said, they sleep on Gregory Hines' vocals on
Yes,
that giant. You
yes,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah,
he didn't do too much,
yeah,
and it's hard to really do a whole lot next to Luther.
yeah,
But to be able to hold your own
yeah,
on a song like that with Luther,
yeah.
it says a lot.
Because Gregory Hines was a dancer, right? He was
Right.
he was put in that category,
Right.
right? But honestly, when I first heard the song, I heard it as a single. I didn't know it was on an album.
Hmm.
So no disrespect, but I didn't know whose song it was.
Ah.
Like to me, it was a 50-50. Like you said, he held his own.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a
yeah,
good one right there.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
really good one. Yeah. So let's connect the love with the music. So,
yeah,
or start to connect it. Let me put it like that. So, given your experiences with love, being married and everything, like in terms of that whole something new feeling, or not even necessarily something new in like in terms of, oh, like I'm meeting this person for the first time, but they just present something different than what you may have experienced before. Um like what was it for you that was kind of sort of necessary for you to feel like, okay, this is taking a little bit of a left turn, so to say, that I actually like, or this is what I need in order to feel like, okay, this is something refreshing. This is something that's that I need in order to feel like, okay, all of the things that I require in a relationship are being met, or the needs or the wants are being fulfilled. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the needs or wants that people, always talk about, but specific to you and you knowing what you need out of a relationship or fulfilling relationship.
Yeah. So I would, the first thing I would say is it depends on what time and period of your life, right? So age does play a role. How you answer this question at 20, 22, 23 might be different than how you answer it in your 30s or in your 40s. And we both hit all of those those age brackets. So in this, if you're asking me the question in this phase, my criteria is different,
Mhm.
right? My who I am, my own self love is different, and it requires a higher expectation, right, on myself, but also on others, because how you love yourself and how you treat yourself will impact how others do the same. And so I can't leave out the fact that years later, right, and a lot of people we know have started to follow God, and so the criteria is different, right?
Mhm.
Knowing what love really is versus when we were listening to R&B back in the day, thinking we knew what it was.
Yeah.
Love to us was how they described it in the music, but that wasn't the reality.
Mhm.
But it was our reality because we listened to the music all the time,
Yeah.
right? If you and I were sitting in a room and you played a song right now, we can sing the whole song, right?
Mhm.
And but knowing the criteria, as far as how God lines it up in First Corinthians 13, you're like,
Yes.
you're like,
Yes.
well, my criteria was almost trash. You know what I mean? It was visual. It was more visual than substance. And
Mhm.
so I think the when you talk about love now, it's that criteria of things, but it's also about growth, right? Back in those days, you might have loved the person because of who they were, and you
Mhm.
wanted them to stay that person. But then when you get older, you realize you don't want the person to stay that person. You
Right.
want them to grow over time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like and so those are the type of growth is important. Honesty, being open, right? I think those are really big and important things. Accountability, right?
Mhm.
You hear people say all the time, and you know, this is me, but people say, "Oh, my wife is my best friend." It's like, well, your best friend you can be honest with, you can
Yeah.
have real hard conversations with. So, but I'm, me for years. I'm unique. I don't really prescribe to, my wife is my best friend. I feel like I'm downgrading her position. She has a really important role as my wife,
Mhm.
and so and
Mhm.
so we're not going to downgrade and say you're my best friend. Like you are my wife. That trumps everything.
Wow.
Yeah, what I
Wow.
mean, it really does. It's kind of like the negative thing when people say, "Oh, that's my baby's mom." No, that's the mother of your children.
Right.
Let's put some respect on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I love that perspective. I mean, this is one thing that I've always known about you, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad that you are, the second one out the gate in this series, because
yeah,
you always, since I've known you and we've known each other
yeah,
20 going on 27 years,
yeah,
and like you always come with a different perspective than most people I know. Like hearing something like, I'm not going to downgrade my wife to best friend when she's my wife. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like it's the whole forsaking all others thing.
yeah,
So it's like if you forsaken all others, then that means best friends too. you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I actually respect that logic, but I again, I respect you and how you approach things, but like just all the things that you said, specifically the difference between, say, 25-year-old you and 45-year-old you is two
Yeah,
different yous, two different versions of who you are.
it
You know
should
what I'm
be.
saying? Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Like if you are still the same person that you were in your 20s, then what have you been doing for 20 years? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
and being with the right person. The Bible talks about iron sharpening iron. So you should be getting better in areas where you're weak, and that person is probably already strong in those areas, and vice versa. So this should
right.
be, you should be getting better. As fathers, yeah, we're tough, but we should be learning to be nurturing, right?
That's right.
If a mom is nurturing, she should be learning that there's times I got to put my foot down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's the iron sharpens iron like
yeah,
that right there. Because I
yeah,
mean, just from my own personal experience, and I'm
yeah,
sure you can relate to that as well, being married is like there have been many areas where I've had to be sharpened, or I've had to mature, or I've
yeah,
had to add certain things into my repertoire that I
yeah.
didn't have before being married. And some of those things, it took years to
Yes,
get
it
to that.
does. Yes, it
But
does.
once I got there, it's like I appreciated the process, because it was like, this is what God was trying to do with me this entire time.
Yeah,
And though it might have taken time, now I can say, okay, I'm better in this area. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that my
yeah,
wife, she can say the same thing about me when it came to certain areas that she might have needed to be stronger in.
yeah,
And I helped to add something to her particular profile as a person, as a wife, as a mother, as all of these different things that she is, and
yeah,
that's the beauty of relationships, is that you're not taking away from the other person, you're adding to the other person.
yeah, yeah. And the thing too is funny if you ever look in the scripture that talks about iron sharpening iron, right?
Mhm.
If you look at it in the amplified, it says through discussion.
Yes,
Like
yes.
that's the part. Like nobody reads that version, but it says through discussion, because if you and I just sit here and look at each other, nothing gets sharpened. There's nothing happening, right?
Hmm.
There's no talking about weaknesses and things like that. And so the marriage relationship is the only relationship that opens up the door to you actually being who you're supposed to be. And
Yeah,
that's the part that there's parts that you learn about yourself that you never knew, but it only unlocks when you're in a marriage and a covenant.
yeah.
You would have never known certain things about yourself, you
That's right.
know,
That's
until
right.
you enter this relationship. And so now that's when the real work becomes, because, love is spelled, love, but marriage is spelled WORK, which is work. So
You ain't never lied, brother. You ain't
yeah,
never lied.
yeah,
That's the thing that they don't put that, they don't always put that in the greeting cards and the
yeah.
movies and the love songs and the TV
None
shows.
of none of them love songs had that in there.
Nah, they did not.
we might, we might not have been jamming to them if they did.
Right. Like, word? What's nah.
Let me pause that.
Right, exactly. Let me find another one in the CD case, and we flipping back and forth.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
find
yeah,
another CD.
yeah, yeah,
That's real right there. That's real, man. So, I like to get specific
yeah,
when it comes, especially because this is a very specific topic. So whether it's just the overall feeling of like something new or new love, or it's what you just described in terms of like the expectations that you had being in a different phase of your life, and the something new that you were looking for, like once you got to this new phase of your life. What's a song, or it could be multiple songs, that you feel like captures that specific type of vibe?
wow, man, I wish I'd have pulled that. I wish I knew that question was coming. Um, because in this phase, right, of my life, um, being a person who is following God and stuff like that, the song is actually it's not an R&B song, but
That's cool.
if
That's
but
cool.
if I played it to you, you'd be like, that's a love song. Like
Mm,
it
mhm.
would sound it because it almost has the sound of a love song.
Yeah.
Um and but I know that the song is uh, written in a way where God is singing about how much He loves me.
Yeah.
And so, because the way I felt about the song, I was like, "Oh, that's the song I need this brother to sing at my wedding.
Okay.
I need
So what's
I need her to hear this song." I can't
yeah.
remember, and I wish I had it. What the, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, yeah. I just think that there's so many different songs that we had in the past that catered straight to a new love,
Hmm.
and so I mean, even who was it? Was it Jody Wiley?
Hmm.
Did you hear that song?
Yeah.
I'm
Looking
looking
for
for a new.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So we had so many songs that could actually just share that hint.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Cupid was a big one for me,
Mhm.
um, from 112. That was a song that I ran. I played that into the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a good one right there. I think a lot of us, I mean, first and foremost, a lot of us played that 112 album into the ground, like just
Yeah,
as a whole. But
yeah,
then, like that specific song, I think one, it was well written,
mhm,
you know what I'm saying, and then like just executed well,
yeah,
like
yeah,
just as a song, period. But like I think the words really just kind of sort of when you think about first starting out with somebody,
yes,
like there are a lot of those questions.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And it's reassurance. It's like our job to like reassure the person that we're with
yeah,
that like, hey, I'm here for the long haul. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
you. Like I want to be with you. You know.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because the other day I picked up my wife and in the truck, and I was playing it when I pulled
mhm,
up to pick her up from work, and
yeah.
it still works. The
Yeah.
song still has the same power and meaning, like you just described. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, um, would you say, and this will actually be the last question. Would you say that your wife embodies the energy of like that new love that you were looking for, whether it's like just on your own, whether it's in the music that you came up listening to? Like, do you feel like she like embodies that?
you know what? I think when I look at the criteria that I had before and then the criteria later on, um, I think I feel like I got more than what I asked for.
Mm,
Because when your criteria, it's almost like having criteria for like a restaurant and a certain food that you like. Everybody has a certain food that they like, and they've probably tried it at three different places, but there's only one place who gets it right every
mm,
time. And
mm,
so our relationships sometimes are like that as well. I think my criteria was more strict. It was more realistic. It was almost like job interviewish,
mm.
which I think people should date
Yeah,
like it's a job interview.
yeah.
Ask questions, have the hard conversations. They shouldn't take months for you to have these conversations. So, um, I think the criteria was a lot different. I think spirit being, you know, a person who loves God and all those kinds of things were very, very much of a criteria, right? Even the music, right?
Yeah.
What are you listening to that is getting you in a good place or keeps you in a good place spiritually,
Mhm.
right? And so now the music that we critiqued as R&B, me as an adult, I now critique in the spiritual realm,
Yeah.
right? The difference between praise music, worship, and gospel, because those are three different things.
Yep.
We can have a whole show about that, right? And so there's because some of it's just entertainment and emotionalism, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I looked at that, and I'll give you an example. One day, Saturdays mornings, I would usually do worship in the morning.
Mm.
And when we were dating, she came over and she visited, and I was in worship, right? And then I was in the kitchen washing dishes. I'm in worship, and I come out of the kitchen to check on her. She's on her knees in worship.
Mm.
I'm like,
Mm.
she's participating.
Yeah.
She's not spectating.
Yeah.
That's what I prayed for. I didn't pray. I didn't know it would manifest like that,
Yeah.
but I wanted somebody who knew if they're in the presence of God how to conduct themselves.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow,
Mm.
like because I think you should go into relationships critical,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a job interview, and really be try to be objective before you already make decisions. I mean, and then this person will reveal the things you're like, yes, that's what I
Mhm.
asked for. Oh, yes, that's what I didn't want. Right.
Right.
you know, like this person didn't hang up on me and not call me back. You know what I mean? So I think being specific and realistic in the criterias, and I think I got probably more um, than I asked for. I'm sure there's some men who have some good wives out there probably saying the same thing.
Oh yeah.
She putting up with me, she's pretty good.
You ain't never lied.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, man. That's powerful. Got more than what you asked for. Like
yeah, yeah,
when you get that, it's such a blessing, man.
yeah,
Because and what I appreciate about what you just said specifically, and this is something that people a lot of times are unwilling to do, is for those initial conversations with somebody to have those talks that a lot of people avoid when
yes,
they're first courting somebody,
yeah,
because you have to have them because you don't want to find those things out years and years down the line,
no,
and it's like,
no,
and then you look back and it's like, dang, if I would have just asked the question
yeah,
or had that conversation and had like the boldness to be able to do that,
yeah,
then I could have avoided finding this out down the line, you
yeah.
know.
And that
So
should and that should happen. Me personally, it should happen in the first maybe two encounters. I don't want to say dates because you can just meet somebody somewhere and talk and go about your business. And I think those conversations it's so hard. Being part of men's ministry, it's so hard to see. Like you didn't talk about marriage as an end goal. You didn't talk about having children.
mhm,
Like these are major things. Like you have that conversation date one, I'm out. This is not the one. Like these are really things that could hurt you down the line. And when do you ever get to the conversation about love if you haven't had these kinds of conversations? You know what I
right.
mean? About the realistics of two lives joining together,
Mhm,
right? And I think that was a beautiful thing about the music was some of those songs were saying what they were willing to give up. I'm willing to stop being a player.
mhm.
And you're like, what? You? This, there has to be something special about this one, this
Yep,
lady, if
yep,
he's willing to do that. And
yeah.
so, yeah, I think it's very, very important. And it comes back to hurt you in the long run.
Mhm, mhm. And I'm glad that you brought it back to like a lot of the music, specifically black music. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in other genres, because I mean, like you look at country, you're like, is very, very honest. I mean, that's some of the best storytelling that you're gonna get in music.
Yeah.
But like it's something specific to the black experience, especially when you think about like when R&B was really like in its like prime.
Yeah.
And not to say that there's not good R&B out now, but you really have to kind of sort of go into like the adult contemporary realm in order to get some of the best like
Yeah.
R&B. Like you're
Yeah.
not, if you turn on say like, I don't know, what's it, Power 99 in
Yeah.
Philly,
Yeah. Yeah.
or Hot 97 in New York, or 93 or 95 here. Like you're not necessarily always going to get that out of that R&B, at least not in this particular day and age. But at
No,
one time,
at one
those
time.
stations would be playing the specific R&B that we're talking about,
Yes, they
and
would be.
there was a certain honesty, um there was certain layers, there was a certain realism that is like, yeah, this is the type of stuff that is happening in our relationships, or this is the type of stuff that's happening when certain doors are getting open, or when you're first meeting somebody, or when you're going through the process of like getting to the relationship stance. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't just this fairy tale kind of love. Like, I feel
No.
like frankly, I feel like a lot of pop songs were very fairy tale-ish,
Yeah.
and that's kind of sort of what made them more, have a little bit more crossover appeal.
Yeah.
Whereas with, like, I think for me, you cannot forget about the blues aspect of rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's a certain reality that
Yeah.
exists with our music, because it's like our experiences are going to be different because of the things that we face, you know what I'm saying, culturally,
Yeah.
spiritually, emotionally, physically,
Yeah.
financially, like all of these different aspects of how we relate to one another. And then we have to relate to the world. And then we have to come back to our households
Yeah.
and like have certain hard conversations that really we understand each other better in a lot of those ways. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And,
So,
and, and,
like,
and and you look at their lives, like they were writing songs and their lives were showing you that this song ain't just a song. You
right.
know, Faith is singing a song based on what's going on with her and Biggie.
Mm-hmm.
Mary J. Blige is singing a song based on what's going on in her life. The song she sang with Method Man on the top of that building. She was
Mm-hmm.
she was intoxicated. That's why he told her she can sit down and sing the song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? She was
Yeah.
going through some issues, and so you connect with these songs because their actual lives, were experiencing, right?
Yeah.
And even you and I were talking about, Dad put me on the Sade,
Oh yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
You look at some artists like that, and you're like, well, why did they come out with new music? Because they were writing music based on their life at the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they don't just make up songs.
Right.
That Gloria Estefan said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just make up songs. I experience life, and then I'm led to write.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Same thing with even in the spiritual side. Yolanda Adams said the same thing. Like, why you
Mm-hmm.
don't put out albums? Because God didn't give me a new song to sing.
There it
Right.
is.
And so you're not just making this stuff up, and that's how we connect with it. And even if it's not a part of their life, if we had an issue, right? Think about John B. They don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about college.
Yep.
We had experiences where we're like, this song is relevant because so and so needs to mind their business
Right.
and stay out of this.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
wish you would listen to this song and catch and catch this hook and step back. You in the way.
Right.
We
Right.
have personal relationships with that whole experience.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So that song is going to be so much more powerful to us personally than
Mm-hmm.
it would be to anybody who's just flipping through the album.
That's right. That's right. That's powerful right there. That's powerful. Well, man, as expected, I mean, it's been a great conversation, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, yeah,
I appreciate your perspectives as
yeah.
always, like I said before, like
Likewise, likewise.
you always come with something that's just left of center, so to say, from what most people bring to the table. And
Yeah,
that's one of the things I've always appreciated about you, just going back to our college days. And
yeah, yeah,
you know what I'm
man.
saying? I'm honored to have you on my platform. You
Man,
know
I'm
what I'm
happy. I'm happy to be here too, man. I feel like I'm in the dorm right now. You on that bed, and I'm on this bed.
saying? Right, right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, I went in the basement and got the old CD case. You know what
My
I'm
man.
saying?
I still have the same
Yeah,
CD
man.
cases that I've
Yeah,
had since we was
yeah,
roommates.
yeah.
Still have the same one.
I told my wife. I said I'm about to talk to my man Joe. I said, you remember? It was I had got that. We was doing them B&G in Columbia House, and
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
ordering all this stuff, and I got all these box sets like I got money or something, right? And then
Yeah.
I remember you would look. You was like, yo, you got that Smokey
Yeah.
Robinson? Now,
I
mind
remember
you,
that. I
now,
remember
now,
that.
now
Yeah.
mind you, I was ordering so much, I ain't know nothing about Smokey like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I heard you say that, I was like, bet. And you
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
I waited a couple months till your birthday, and I gave it to you as a gift. That was probably one
Yep.
of the flyest
Yep.
things I ever did. That
Yeah.
made me feel so good because I was like, this dude is gonna appreciate this joint.
And I did. I did. I still have that set to this day. Like
Yep.
that thing is like in great condition too.
Yeah.
Because like when I tell you, like that's the gift that just kept on giving
Yeah.
when it came to that particular
I
box
saw
set.
you, man. I saw your face when you opened it, man.
Yeah.
Because I was like, he saw it and he knew I got it, but I was like, I'm gonna hold this because it was something in my spirit was like, yo, this is a good gift. And we older now, but back then I had a memory. I was like, you know what, you want to show somebody that you really appreciate them, and we was young, we didn't really celebrate all of our birthdays probably like we should have, but
Yeah.
the love was there. I even wanted to move to DC and and
Yeah.
live close to you and everything. So
Yeah, man.
I appreciate this opportunity to be back, and I'll be driving down there soon. So
Yeah, man. Hey, man, you already know we
yeah,
definitely gotta kick it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Come down here, bro. You know.
yeah.
So
Get these beautiful wives together that
right. Oh yeah.
helping brothers out.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I want you to take this opportunity because I mean you a man of many talents with a lot of things going on. So I want you to be able to take this opportunity to, plug everything that you're doing. Just, share with people. Um, just in case people want to connect with you and everything and all the services that you provide and just all of the greatness that is my man Keith Brandon.
Yeah,
So this is
yeah.
your time to shine, my brother.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's something that you pretty much said a few minutes ago. From a different perspective, I realized that I have a different perspective, and that's the gift I've been given. So I have my own consultant firm, the Brandon Consulting and Advocate Group. It's www the thebcag.com. And I'm operational consultant, so I help people be more efficient, find out where they're trying to get to in their futures. And it's a gift of mine. It started out years ago. I also, part of my firm, I started going back to coaching lacrosse. I was one of the rare people who play lacrosse, and gotten back into that to kind of give back to the community as well, young people. And I'm an artist. So after all these years of being an art teacher, hopefully by 2025, I'll start getting my artwork in galleries. And that's the BKB2 Designs is my website for that. And I'm on all the social media platforms.
Oh man, yeah. Well, that's another thing. And it's funny because I was just talking to Travis. Me and him, we stay in
Yeah,
contact because he's down
yeah,
in the area now, and it's funny
yeah,
because he was branded as the Renaissance man when he was in college, and
yeah,
he's just now really kind of sort of embracing that title. And it's funny hearing you talk about all of the things that you do well, and I'm like another Renaissance man. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
And you know, Travis and I played football together.
I know, I
In
know.
college. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I
And,
remember.
and it's a funny story. We're in the locker room, and they were asking some of the young players, like, what's your major? And he said art. And they started teasing him. So I never
Yeah.
told anybody I majored in art. I saw the treatment he got. So I
Yeah.
apologize, Travis, for leaving him alone. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
It's a good
awesome because
brother.
yeah, absolutely. And to see what I think is awesome, like kind of sort of thing about both you and him is that, he's pursuing a lot of his artistic endeavors, being in the photography and everything.
Yeah.
And now you're doing the same, like
Beautiful work.
yeah, absolutely. And now you're doing the same with your artwork as well. And sometimes, and it kind of goes back to something you said, even about love, like that love kind of sort of reaching across the aisle, so to say, when it comes to just more than say relationships or our love of God, but just like our love of the things that kind of sort of put the battery in our back when it comes to life.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
some of those things we pursue a little bit differently when we're older because we can appreciate them a little bit more and
Yeah.
we own more of who we are personally so we
Yeah.
can own more of who we are creatively.
Yeah, and everything's in time, right?
Hmm.
It's so many seasons of our life, and every year there's seasons naturally, but there's seasons spiritually as well, and your
Yep.
growth. And so you don't, people, you might look at somebody who grew a harvest. It's the seasons before that. Did you
Yeah.
do the work? Did you do the work then? Right?
Hmm.
And even with my children, like I use the analogy of video games. You don't get to the next board until you can actually accomplish and complete this one,
That's right.
right? And so
That's right.
whether you got to work on your patience, right, your kindness, right, your all those things that fit into the carrier of love in the
Yeah.
Bible, right?
Yeah.
Until you actually start to master these things, you don't go to the next level, right?
That's right.
The next door is not unlocked, and because whatever is for you to obtain in the next level in the next season, you don't want to obtain it and lose it.
Right.
It's supposed to be for you to keep it. So
Hmm.
you have to be built up and strengthened in that area to move into that season and take what's yours.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Amen to that. Like it's all about levels and you unlocking the levels when you're supposed to unlock the levels, because I think a
Yeah,
lot of times people kind of sort of rush to
rush.
unlock those levels, but it's like what you got to do the work in this particular level before you can go to the next one. So
Yes.
I definitely agree with that. That resonates with me as somebody who has definitely tried to rush through a few levels in life, and
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
okay, let's
yeah,
slow down.
yeah,
Let's do what we need to do here. Then let's go here.
yeah. Because you're gonna be when you blink your eye, you right back to where you was. You might
Right,
have rushed. You might have rushed, but you right back where you're like, how I get back here? You wasn't
right,
done.
exactly. Living Groundhog Day all over again.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. But I just want to, just thank you, my brother, for coming on the platform and everything and having this conversation with me. It's everything that I knew was going to be. And don't be surprised if, I don't tap you on the shoulder for another one in this
yeah,
series, man. So
yeah.
I
No,
definitely appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the love always, and I can't wait for that album.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I can't wait to roll it out for
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah, man. I
Yeah,
can't wait.
yeah.
I can't wait. Can't wait to play that over and over.
Yeah, yeah. When in the form that it's meant to be, mixed, mastered, put together, the whole nine with the intros and everything, man. I'm telling you, it's gonna be
Crazy.
dope. And and
Yeah,
and I gotta shout you out real quick, ladies and gentlemen. This brother was one of the members of my team that helped me really kind of sort of figure out the direction of how to roll out this project in terms of singles, in terms of the challenges that are being rolled out and everything. And, I just want to thank you, publicly for like how you helped so much, not only just with like just giving feedback, but such detailed feedback. Like when you send it back, I was like, this is how I want it every single time from every person who ever sends me feedback. I'm
yeah,
like, this
yeah,
this is how you do it right here.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy because I got my notebook out and I was like, he know who I am.
Yep.
So don't try to do nothing new. Don't try to do no new technique. Just do what you always do, and he
Yes.
gonna he gonna use it however he gonna use it. So I
Yeah,
appreciate I appreciate that.
absolutely. It was massively helpful, massively. So I appreciate you, my brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. So once again, I appreciate you. And we're gonna be talking soon. So,
yeah, no doubt,
definitely be on the lookout.
no doubt. Appreciate you.
All right, no
Blessings to
doubt, bro.
you. Blessings to you and the family.
Same to you, my brother. I appreciate you.
All right.
All right now. Yeah, I think it's there we go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, that was my brother Keith Brandon. Make sure that y'all check out his I'm gonna run his banners or his banner with his information one more time at the bottom of the screen. Y'all can follow him on Instagram at the BCAG LLC. That is his consulting firm, or he also has information about what he does with lacrosse. Keith was not only was he a great football player in college, he was a phenomenal lacrosse player. And I remember that whole process of him learning how to play lacrosse and how he actually, it seemed like for a while, he was more interested in playing lacrosse, maybe because of the challenge, you know what I'm saying, of playing it. But you know what I'm saying, just an incredible guy. And then you can also follow his artwork at BKB2 Designs on Instagram as well. If you want to find out more information about his consulting firm, you can go to the bcagllc.com. Once again, that is the bcagllc.com. All of that information is scrolling below. Of course, we kind of sort of tease it up a little bit. This whole series, or this particular part of the series, is in connection with a new song that I have out, which is the first instrumental single for a project I'm doing. And the single, of course, is called Something New. It's out right now. You can get it at my website, which is BAMMLLC.net/music. You can also get it at my Bandcamp page, which is ajthrowback.bandcamp.com. Once again, that's ajthrowback.bandcamp.com. Or if you're a streaming person, you can go to pretty much every streaming site. It's on there, including Spotify. So you can just type in AJ Throwback, type in Something New, and you'll be able to stream that song as many times as you want. Add it to a playlist, and just keep that thing going if you're a streaming person. But as I always tell people, and I'm not picky with how you support, but I always tell people I would prefer that you buy. We just benefit more from it as artists when it comes to people buying the music versus people streaming the music. So, you know what I'm saying? I definitely appreciate the support that everybody has been showing the single thus far. So definitely appreciate the support that everybody's throwing my way. Next week, we'll be back with another episode of Bring Back the Love Conversations, or as I like to brand it, Bring Back TLC, because you got to bring back the communication in love, as my man Keith alluded to when it came to the verse from, I believe it's Deuteronomy, where it talks about iron sharpens iron. I may be off. It's either Deuteronomy or Proverbs. But you definitely have to bring back the communication aspect when it comes to sharpening that other person. And you have to do the same thing in love. But it's also about bringing back the tender love and care that a lot of times is missing in a lot of relationships when it comes to not just the music, but just the relationships themselves. So that's what we do with this platform. It's all about bringing back the love and bringing back the love for R&B music and what makes R&B music so great, because it's the genre that raised me. So I'm always going to show it love. So until the next time, I appreciate everybody who tuned in for tonight's episode of Bring Back the Love Conversations. I have been your host, AJ Throwback. And until next time, y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend. And remember, just keep the love flowing. All right, y'all. Peace.